Before this thing becomes a dust collector, there is still one part to make, and that is this little worm gear that I have right here. Now this is gonna be a little bit of a challenge because the thing has to fit here in this bushing, and of course also has to fit in the thread here. And the height is of course also important, so there is at least 3 dimensions that are important, and in fact the diameter 2, that makes 4. And because I never made any worm gears in my life, let's figure it out. I don't know, we'll see. I have seen videos from people who install a tap in the chuck of the lathe and then install the gear blank here in some kind of hold it in place system that I have to make, and then when the tap is rotating, the little part is rotating also. But because my gear blank is only 8 millimeter, it's a very small part, I'm not sure it's gonna hold. I think this could work very nice with bigger gears, but small thing like this, I don't believe in it. So let's find another solution. Let's do a bit of boring theory over here, so that you understand a little bit my way of thinking. And if I think something completely wrong, you will put it in the comments. Or else I will figure it out myself when I'm working it out on the machine, of course. Right, here we go. When you look at the thread, whatever thread, the lines are in an angle. And of course, if I take my paper here, my gear, these teeth here, they need to have the same angle, because the diameter of my part is 8 millimeter. And the pitch of the thread is 1 millimeter, which means each rotation 1 millimeter of movement. And then of course we need to take half, because we see only half of the part, only the front side, which means we can make a triangle. My triangle over here is the 90 degrees, the half of the thread, because the other half is on the back side, doesn't count, a right angle. So this length here is what I'm doing here, 0.5, and this one is 8. Gives me an angle, and I learned it, of course, I will use my paper. .5 degrees and some change. Which means that if I have a cutting tool that rotates, if I have an angle of 90 degrees here, my part has to rotate while the tool is cutting. If I install my part in an angle of 3.5 and change degrees, my cutting tool can rotate and it will cut the angle included, of course, without rotating my part, which means I can do my 25 divisions as needed without rotating while cutting. That also means that to cut the teeth in my part here, I cannot use the tap, because the position of the teeth on one quarter here is of course different than on the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter. So instead of cutting the teeth, I will cut away almost all the material and no teeth left. So I need another solution. To be good, I need a cutting tool with one cutting tip. While rotating, it will cut the teeth. but a 10 millimeter diameter with only one tooth, that's a real challenge to make. But not if you have a broken tab. This is what's left of a 10 millimeter tab. The pitch on this one is 1.5 and I need 1. But if I take off all the teeth except 1, it doesn't matter what pitch it is. The only thing important here is of course the profile of the tooth, which is perfect. And of course also the diameter of the cutting tool, which is also perfect. Okay, useless tab, time to become useful again. While grinding, I touched a tiny bit here the side of my brand new cutting tool, but I think it will work. Right, let's figure out a setup for the part itself. I think the easiest way to do this is to install my little part here in the dividing head. And because I need 25 divisions, of course 25 because one rotation will give 25 millimeter, and also 25 divisions of 1 millimeter gives a diameter of 8 millimeter, which is exactly what I need. But whatever. I need a plate with 20 hole circle and do 1 rotation and 12 holes per tooth. I don't have 20, but I have one of 40. And what did we say? It means 24 holes. So 0, 1, 24. To set the thing here at the right angle, I install of course my test bar and an indicator. And all I have to do is multiply these distances by 10, for example, and then check on the indicator if it does 5 rotations over 80 millimeters. We're good. I started at 0 here on my scale. 150 minus 80 is of course 70, and this shows me 69.6 or something, so I am 4/10 of a millimeter off. Over this distance, that will do. All set up. Time to install my future gear. All set up and ready to go. Now it wasn't really easy to find the center of the part because of the angle, but I think I'm close. Let's see what happens. Depth of cut 0.5 millimeter 25 times. I made a worm gear. But before I start celebrating, it's maybe a good idea to check if it works. I did something stupid. It's of course not the first time that it happens, and I don't think it will be the last. But my brand new little gear, when I put it this way, which is not the official way, but more or less square with the threaded rod in here, I can spin it, but it feels a little bit different. And to try to figure out what's happening, I put my part here on my workbench and I roll the thread of the tab in my freshly cut teeth here. And automatically the part will go and sit in an angle. Which of course doesn't make any sense, because when it's perfectly engaged in the teeth, it should be square. And after digging a little bit deeper in this mystery, I figured it out. The angle I've set here is probably correct, but it is in the wrong direction. Which means that I have to start again, but this time of course in the right direction. And that's not really a problem. I can miss several times because here, as you can see, I have 6 meters of this material, so a few misses. I just finished making the second one, and this time I used the machinist jack to give it a little bit of support. This thing was made by Jill in Canada, so Jill, thanks again, it works great. Let's see this time if it works. When the thread is completely settled, the thing is square, so this time, success. Now that I know that this one could work, it's time, I think, to make these other fishes here. I don't really follow the original plan here. There are some modifications that I drawed out here on my blackboard. Which means that on this little thing on this side, I need to do some features, and on this side, now this is way too long, and it's a little bit hold it in place challenge. I think first I'm gonna hold it here on the small side to do all this here, because I also have to drill a hole in here, make it to 5 millimeter, and then flip it around and do the other side. It works. Before I do the final assembly of this thing, first I want to make this round feature in this part here and replace these two ugly bolts with what looks a little bit more like these screws here. That of course I don't have, but I have two brand new little bolts here Let's make some screws. You see, sometimes I do manual labor, even if it is primitive. The thing is completely assembled, but when I try to spin it, it is very wobbly. And because of here on the bottom side there is this bracket that I suppose is meant to bolt it down or screw it down on a wooden base. Let's make one. This is a piece of a chair that I have in my garden for many years, and I think this is oak, and it's a perfect match. That's a lot quicker than cutting steel. Right, let's make a terrible mess. Oh. I already drilled the 4 holes for the mounting screws, and I'm gonna give this thing a coat of beeswax. And judging by the color, I think these were chocolate bees, if that even exists. I don't know. I'm gonna let it sit here and dry for a while and then polish it, and it will look fantastic. And always I use this little product here. I wonder, how do these bees manage to get all this wax inside this container? And even more important, when it's full, how do they put this cap on? While the wax is drying, this is the ideal moment to give a shout out to Paul from my mini home workshop. He's located in Thailand, and go and have a look, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Paul, he's not afraid to, for example, build his own lathe Yes, he did. And when he needs some castings, some special parts that are impossible to find, no problem, he casts himself in aluminium in his backyard. Go and have a look, subscribe, and of course, as always, link in description. Project completed. Because I wasn't really happy with the finish of this sliding part here, I installed it back in the shaper and gave it a little touch with the shear tool, and now it looks much better. The question is, of course, does it work? I have a piece of paper and calipers, and I hope the camera picks it up a bit. 9/100ths, so almost 1/10 of a millimeter. This little one is now on 0, so less than 1 millimeter thickness. And the big one, 9/100ths. I changed a little bit the camera angle so you can better see what's happening. And to prove that I do not cheat, I take the same piece of paper and I put it in here. Now it's somewhere between 8 and 9. But there is a little bit of problem. I marked here numbers. And the problem is that I marked them in the wrong direction. This should be number 1, 2 and 3. And I numbered them 1, 2 and 3 in the other direction. But whatever, I think is the charm of the thing. Right, let's take it out of here. I have a little V block and my calipers still giving 0 more or less. It's -1, 0. I see here, and I hope you see here, 11:06. Turn it off. Open up the thing. 5, 10, 11, a little bit more. Now, I don't think this one is parallel. This one is 11:10. This one is 11:09. What's happening here? 11:07. Right, here in the middle, this thickness is 11:10. And here I have also 11, so a difference of 1/100th of a millimeter. And now even a little bit closer. This is my broken parting tool, and this surface has a little bit of damage, so I will measure this thickness with the real thing. I've never been very good in measuring things with micrometers, but we'll see what happens. This one is 19 and then 94. 1994. Yep, I hope the camera picks it up in the light, I don't know. $15, $20, $21. It's a little bit more complicated. I think we're there. Stay. So we set 19, almost 20. This one, correct. Spin it around. And I have here, the one is of course 90. Between 93 and 94. So that's perfect. I really had a great time building this thing. Even marking the numbering in the wrong direction, but whatever. If you would like to build one yourself, and I hope you will, there is a link in the description which brings you to a YouTube video. And these people in this video explain what to do, and they also ask that if you use their plans to give them a shout out. So totally free except for the shout out. So I think it's fair. And next week I think I'm gonna